The Job Insanity Podcast with Erik ten Haven. Episode number
11.
Let the show begin.
Today's guest is David Cummin. David has built and sold quite a few businesses and is currently one of the founders of Arthur Online, an innovative property management app. David took his family for a trip around the world twice and inspired me to do the same, for which I'm very grateful to him. He explains how taking his kids out of the London bubble broadened their horizons and how he added 10 years of father time in just a 9-month period. Coming back from these travels actually had its own challenges, which David will talk about as well. He explains how he builds his property management software Arthur and how the fear of failure motivates him to keep building this business. As he says, if something comes along and it scares you, but it could be a good move, you gotta do it and you mustn't give up, whatever happens. Many people call him Peter Pan because of all these stupid ideas. However, many of his ideas materialize and become reality. Let's hand it over to David Cummin. Welcome, David, to the show.
Thanks, Erik. It's good to be on.
Yeah, definitely. David and I know each other already for a while, but so far we've only known each other virtually, which is quite interesting. David is one of the people that got me into traveling with my family last year for 6 months. And he has an interesting life and an interesting perspective on life. So therefore, I'd like to hear more about your story today, David.
It's a pleasure there, Erik. And I'm pleased your wife is still talking to you after my inputs. No, it's good to be on and to talk to you about it. As you know, I went traveling around the world twice with the family, and worked like mad building up a business from 1992 to 2000, and it was a business in the health and fitness sector, software, and of course the health and fitness sector at the time was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And between 1996 and 2000, health and fitness went mad,
right? And
the .com era came along, and of course. The timing was perfect, and it was more luck than judgment, but it was a huge amount of hard work. Anyway, what happened was sold the business in October 2000 after working for years and years and years and years.
And what kind of business was that exactly, David?
Well, what we used to do was we supplied software that controlled all of the management of private health clubs. So that would be Fitness First, Virgin, David Lloyd, LA Fitness, pretty much around the world. And what it did was it dealt with everything from swiping your card when you came into the club to collecting the direct debits. And the lovely thing about that sector is it was all entrepreneurial. So I remember meeting Richard Branson when they launched Virgin and Duncan Bannatyne and all those sorts of people. And it was a great fun entrepreneurial market. In fact, the Arthur, the property management software, a similar type of market as well. There's similar people. Anyway, the thing was, business got sold, and then I had 3 years non-competes. So I was 36. The kids were, at that time, 5 turning 6, 8 turning 9. And pound was unbelievably strong. And I thought, right, now's time to get going. So and time wasn't a constraint. It was so bizarre. We went to see the headmistress of the first daughter's school. And she said, look, if you're just going to be lying on the beach for a year, then they wouldn't let us go. But if we had a planned agenda, then they would let us go. So we just sat down and we sort of looked at a map of the world and just chose which countries we distinctly want to go to. And then I overlaid that with the seasons and the routes and the special festivals. So, for example, we were in Cusco, well, that's interesting. I can't remember where Cusco is, Ecuador. For the Festival of the Sun, which is like a major, major festival. And so I planned it all. And then you sat there thinking, well, you're traveling with kids, you know, what you do. So you added a few days in between all the stops. And what started life as sort of 3 or 4 months actually landed up being about 10 or 11 months. And there were conditions, you know, one of the kids had to write about each place she went to, and she was a prolific writer anyway. And we were trying to go into the Amazon, and basically, you'd never taken kids into the Amazon. There were no books around about how you deal with a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old when you go into the Amazon. So I spoke to Lonely Planet. Lonely Planet said, well, if your daughter writes well enough, they'll publish it. So it's interesting. And then the other child just had to do 3 facts of every city we went to. And it was like a bloody nightmare trying to get her to do 3 stupid facts. You just sit there all day waiting for her to write these facts. Anyway, so we set off. We got them out of school in February. It was between exam time, so you could do that. And we landed up coming back, I think, it was mid-September for the new term. And it was great. It was the best time of my life, without any doubt, because I had money, we had health. The kids were young, so they all loved their mummy and daddy. There were no boyfriends involved. The business was fine. There was no business, there was no responsibility. And we rented out our house, which gave us a great rental income. And the pound was at 4-1 in Australia, so you could just about do everything you want. And I remember coming back to more money in the bank than when we left. And we did it, and also we did it 5-star, but I didn't scrimp anywhere. We just did it the way you would do it if you were going once in a lifetime. And it was life-changing, no question about it.
So what was the main thing that you got out of that trip? Was it a change in how you interacted with your family? Was it a change in how you looked at the world? Was it a change in how you looked at your kids? What were the main things that you learned from that trip?
Well, the most obvious thing, and it's one of those stupid things you do when you're lying in a vineyard in South Africa with nothing to worry about, is you try and work out how much time an average father spends with his children.
Yes.
When he's working. And it'd be weekends or whatever it was. And I'd worked out that on that trip, I'd added another 10 years of father time to my children.
Yeah. Because
I was with them every day for 9 or 10 months. That was quite good. We went as a unit. It wasn't mummy and daddy dragging 2 children around. Our youngest child was very sociable, and anywhere she went, she attracted people, but she was scatty. And our oldest child was very organised, but a bit shy. Mm-hmm. So the deal was, whenever we went to new places, the younger child would wheel the older child in, but the older child would make sure that the younger child packed all her clothes properly every time we moved and everything else. So we went as a unit and as a team. And that brought us very, very close together. And I wanted to be in a situation with the kids, which could have come back and shot me in the foot later, which was wherever they were in the world, they would be able to get home themselves. And I wanted to teach them independence. And of course, I think the biggest thing was, we were living in this huge house in northwest London, which is a bubble. And most of the kids who grow up, in fact, most people who grow up in that area don't realise what the rest of the world's like. So I wanted to make sure that we saw everything from the worst slums in India to the biggest palaces somewhere else and everything in between. And I think they had a very, very good drawn experience of life, and they saw the world from lots of different perspectives. And that was good. That broadened their horizons. That was really, really interesting. And we had fun. We laughed. We literally laughed every single day, which was brilliant.
Yeah.
Coming home is so fun.
How did it work out with the school? Because I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this might think, well, you'll have to homeschool them and you have to make sure that they keep on track. So how did that work out?
Very, very good question. Well, the youngest one, who was 5 turning 6, had to write her 3 facts for every city she went to. And also she had to learn time and basic multiplication.
Okay.
So you try and teach a child, multiplication or subtraction and addition. They just don't want to know. You want to teach them about money and stuff like that. They don't want to know. But if you say to a 5-year-old, okay, man, we're getting on a plane. It takes off at 10. It's a 12-hour flight. There's a 5-hour time difference. And I'm going to give you £5, which equates to 20 Australian dollars.
Yep.
Suddenly, it doesn't take them long to realise how much something's worth.
Yeah.
So it got to the stage where we're going from Australia to New Zealand. You can say you're going to give them £5 for New Zealand, and the exchange rate is 3-1. And before you know what's happened, she's saying, "Oh, Dad, that's 15 New Zealand dollars. Can I have it, please?" And then you say, "Well, we're getting on the plane at 12:15, and it's a 12-hour flight. And it's a 5-hour time difference." So she goes, "Oh, in that case, we'll arrive at blah blah blah." So that was very, very good. The older one, that's all the younger one had to do, and she had to write her 3 facts. The older one did have maths and stuff like that to do. But of course, the thing everyone forgets is while everyone's having their summer holidays, our kids were every day, they were doing a few hours work. So what would happen is at the end of the day, it's like 5 o'clock and you'd been out touring or something. The older one would be writing prolifically about what had happened that day and doing her homework. The young one would be sitting by wherever it was, painfully trying to write her 3 facts but gazing into the stars. But the fact is, when they got back to school, because they'd been educated an hour's work a day every day for 6, 7, 8, 9 months, funnily enough, when they got back to school, they were more prepared than the other kids were, because to them, they'd just done a bit each time. It wasn't an issue at all. But the school did say, as long as they're doing stuff, they'd let them go. But if we were just going to laze about, they wouldn't.
Right. So none of the two had any issues coming back to class?
No, none at all. None at all. The oldest one was quite interesting. The oldest one wrote like mad, and Lonely Planet were going to publish what she wrote. I remember coming back and having to transcribe what she'd written, and it was 350 pages. It was a lot of stuff to transcribe. Yeah, and it was before audio recognition was much good, so I had to type it all.
Right.
But what happened the first one is she started the story with her backpack.
Right.
She took her school backpack with her. So it started with Mummy and Daddy coming to school, and I took my backpack with me on holiday, and it ended with her same backpack going back on the peg of the next year up.
Yeah.
Sitting next to all the other backpacks, but it had been around the world and done 200,000 miles. And no problems at all going back. They had to give a talk about various places they'd been to. No, very rounded when they got back. No problems there at all.
So then you came back, and the family came back, and you just had a successful run with your health business, your health software business. You came back as well, and what was that for you when you came back after those 9 months of intense traveling, all these experiences, and in what place were you when you came back? Well,
one of my friends had a very good expression where I live in Hampstead in North West London. They say you don't come to the arena to watch, and everybody there is like property developers and God knows what. I think the problem I had, and it is a problem, firstly I came back to more money in the bank than when we left, and we were doing 5-star.
Right.
So you sit there thinking, well, why should I bother working? I could go away again with a teacher. And funnily enough, when we were in New Zealand, I had a friend who was actually the chief executive of a company called Esporta, which is a big health and fitness chain.
Yeah.
And Esporta floated, he left, and he went traveling around the world in a camper van. And there was no benefit at all. I sat there thinking, well, there is no benefit and I was still in my non-compete period. So it actually was a problem, because I sat there thinking, well, there's a big world out there, and I don't particularly want to work. I've made the money. I don't get a kick from it. I get a kick from going out around the world, not making the money was a means to an end. And I remember one day, and I was sitting in the garage painting some Victorian cast iron chairs because I wasn't allowed to work. I was developing some software in the background, but I wasn't really allowed to do anything. Having a massive argument with my wife, saying I just want to go traveling again. And she said, well,
we just went.
No, she said, what happened was she said to me, she'll only go traveling again if I've got something to come back to. And literally 20 minutes after we had that huge argument, the phone rang, and it was some of my old health and fitness partners who wanted to float a business on the stock exchange, and they wanted me to be the third partner. So I went and had a meeting with them. I think I had a huge argument with my wife at 10 in the morning, had a big meeting with them at 3 in the afternoon, so told them that I'd be delighted to get involved, but I'm going traveling again, hoping that they would say, well, in that case, don't worry about it. And they said, fine, if you can put somebody in to run that part of the business while you're away, you can go traveling again.
Yeah.
So I then went home that afternoon and said, right, I've got something to come back to, and I'll go traveling again. And so she shut up, and we went a second time.
Oh, wow.
And it was different the second time. Just as interesting, but the kids were a lot older the second time. Not a lot older, but a few years older. Enough to have a different dynamic, but equally as good.
Yeah.
And you learn things. You see things, business opportunities. You're developing software for health and fitness, or Arthur, in fact, the one we're doing now, or software I was involved with on the medical sector. And you can see angles. And of course, you meet really interesting people. That's the other thing. And you make friends all over the world. Yeah.
So when you left, basically you exited your software business. By that time, did you also already build a property portfolio?
My wife is a letting agent and does property management. So the way it used to work was she earned good money because the average deals that Bev did were, like £2,000 a week or £800 a week. They were big deals.
Yep.
Where you got commissions. So when I sold the business in 2000, we bought property, and Bev bought property as well. We had, I think at that time we had 10 or 12 properties, all around Hampstead, Belsize Park. They were, good properties in good areas. So we'd had we built a property portfolio based on the fact that, I'd made money in the software business, not because we were mad property developers. In fact, we're actually not property developers at all. We just buy good stuff and hang on to it.
Yeah.
So that's how that portfolio works. And then when we did the flotation on the second business in 2005, again, we bought more property at that time as well.
Right.
I made the classic mistake, but I don't regret it for 1 second, of doing the classic thing that the egotistical entrepreneur in software does, which I bought this big old plantation house in Barbados, which was such a laugh. It was brilliant. It's the only thing you buy if you fall madly in love with something.
Yeah.
But we had 10 fabulous years from that place, and I used to write the most amazing software from there. It was just ideal. Big old house in the Caribbean. It was just perfect for a software person.
It was perfect for a software person, but it didn't fit a proper property strategy, I guess, did it?
No. You
just...
could safely say it didn't. You had interesting tenants though. We had Pink Floyd staying there, and we had rooms and people staying there. But it was a laugh. I don't regret it. Money on it. We had money on it, but 2008 was not a good time. Put it that way.
No. Yeah. So then after your second trip, back to England, and then back to the job with your friends, helping them float their company, or not?
Yeah. So then you get back from the second trip. So that's, I think, 2007, 2008. And yeah, could be a bit of a problem because you still want to go. You still want to keep going.
Right.
I think really from 2008, probably from 2009, because I had the ad leisure, the floating business, from 2009, probably until about 2012, bit of a restless soul. I won't beat around the bush. You start thinking about purpose and all that sort of stuff. So
how did you deal with that in that period? For me, it's very recognizable. I had the same phase in my life where I also got out of a business in a slightly different way than you did. But I was also on the look for, the next thing to do. And for me, it was a very tough period actually to figure out what to do next.
I'd agree with you. Not particularly happy. Kids are turning into teenagers. I'll be honest, not particularly productive, not particularly happy. All I want to do is get on a plane and go to the Himalayas or something. And it was a strain. It definitely caused a strain. Then sort of Arthur came along. And Arthur, as you know, is a property management platform, but we designed it from the mobile backwards. And the plan was you could run your property portfolio from anywhere in the world. Right.
Well, you say it came along. How did it came along? Because it doesn't just drop out of the air, I guess.
I was working in a medical business, helping my brother, coasting along, which was successful. It was working very well, and we did software for monitoring patients. I loved the technology, but I hated the business because they were CNHS and they're no entrepreneurs and not good. And then I was at an event one evening with Bev. We had a tenant who was paying $2,500 a week, and they'd lost some keys. And of course, it's our fault that they've lost their keys. But when they're paying $2,500 a week, frankly, it is your fault that they've lost their keys, and you do everything you can. And then we were sitting next to Mark and Rochelle, literally, and they had a tenant who had a problem with a boiler or something. I think it was a single mum, and it was around winter time, and we were in a basement, and we were both pinned up against the wall trying to sort this issue out. And Mark said to me, I knew Mark generally. I'd been on a charity bike ride with him a few years before. I just knew him. And Mark said to me, "Look, I'm trying to write a web page where a tenant can get information and send problem issues to me via email." And and I was chatting to him about it, and he said I'd help him because I knew technology. And that was that. And I had a quick look, and then about 3 weeks later, same thing happened again. I haven't seen him for years, and 3 weeks later we were sitting next to each other again. Literally, another event, and I said, how's it going? And he said, well, I've got a bit of trouble with this and a bit of trouble with that. Can you help me? So I had a look. And then I went back to him and said, look, what you're trying to do is just not going to work. And he said, well, look, do you want to do it together? So I said, yeah, let's do it together, but it's not going to cost 5,000. It'll cost 500,000, and it won't take 6 months. It'll take 3 years or 4 years, but then we'll have a real business at the end of it.
Yep.
And on that basis, I'll come in. And that's how Alpha started, really. And we pretty much spec'd it out one evening on a paper tablecloth. We pretty much got the design right within about 2 hours of what it needed to do, generally. And then I came alive again because you could see it was real.
Right.
And of course, for me, which is literally, I'm talking to you at the moment from the beach in Thailand, where our software development team are. For me, it switched the light on because it meant I could start running the business from all over the world again, which is exactly what I'm now doing.
Yeah.
So you start waking up again and life starts being good.
So was it mainly then the challenge or the excitement about the potential of the business that got you moving with this?
All of it, really. I came alive. I am alive. I think I've gone for the medical business, which was very depressing because the medical business was all about cancer and death. It's horrible. And you're looking at writing software that monitors it's just a horrible business. It's just horrible. And this one, you could see an international business. It ticked all the boxes. It was commercially, it all made sense. Technically, I could do it. It was leading edge, not bleeding edge. So it was just taking a job and doing it better. So your risks are lower. We funded it privately. We had money, so we had to fund it privately. So we don't have any investors. Obviously, we have now because we've taken it around to stage round funding. And I could see a way of putting a lifestyle into it.
Right.
I knew damn well the first 3 or 4 years would be a slog, and they have been. Well, it's always a slog. It's a slog until you sell it. But the fact is, I can see a way forwards with it. Yeah, right. It's good. It's fun.
So where is that business now? Can you tell me a little bit about how successful it is at the moment and where the business is?
You and I met through Arthur in the first place.
Yes.
So, I think through the link with Xero. So obviously you go through all the teething problems of getting the software right, and you're onboarding customers and things don't work properly and functionality needs to be better and all the rest of it. So you just have to go through that. There's no way around it. And I've got the same passion and drive with it as I had with the .com business, which was sort of 20 years ago. But where we are now is we've got to a point where we just do a fundraise. And we only needed, we tried to go for the sort of £4 million value, which is something ridiculous, and see if you can get it away. And we did have some reasonably good offers on that, but the terms of the investment were just, when you're 30, when you're 30, sorry, Skype coming there. When you're 50, you won't. Right. So what we did, we scaled it back to what we actually need. So we needed just under $1 million. We just raised 1.2 million. And they're good investors as well. We've got the right profile of investor. So the business is valued at just over 4. And that's fine. We're happy with it. But where it can go now, that thing could be a really big business now. So it's exciting.
And how do you deal with your competitors? I think in the UK there's a few other companies in this space. Is that encouraging to you because other people are trying to solve this problem, or is it worrying you that they might, outcompete you?
Well, the grown-up commercial part of me says, well, it's very good that there are other competitors in the space, and it shows that there's a market, and and it's commercial, and it's very good, and da, da, da. And the fear of failure part of me is scared to death. Think, Christ, we really got to get our finger out, and all the software that's coming out is going to be better than ours, and I'm panicking and all the rest of it. So my fear of failure has never really gone. I had the same thing in the health and fitness sector, I had the same thing in the medical sector. We're further ahead than the competitors. We're good. Now we've raised the money, I've pulled in some other developers because I've wanted for years, but I couldn't be able to afford. So I know I've got the best team going. I'm in the same time zone as that dev team. So I think collectively we can churn out some pretty good stuff. But yeah, I'm always terrified. Literally, it's paranoia. I'm absolutely paranoid that we'll get overtaken tomorrow. And while I'm sitting and talking to you, some mega app's coming out. And that's how I live. That is how you live that's how I live. And then when you sell it, you think, oh, I managed to fool everybody. Actually, actually we managed to do it. But yeah, I'm always worried about it. But there's no one doing exactly what we're doing yet, but there will be.
Yeah, I'm sure. And is that fear also, can it be turned into like positive motivation for you to keep pushing, keep thinking about what to add, keep adding more value to your customers? Is that also part of it?
No. No, I mean, fear of failure is what motivates me. Different things motivate different people. Fear of failure, upsetting a customer, thinking every day someone's going to get rid of your software because something doesn't work is my motivation, which is really stupid, but it is. And possibly because of that, we're always talking to the clients. I mean, I'm 54, and I'll still take a call from somebody who's got 5 units, and find out if they've got a problem or not. So I think we're very close to the cold face. And yes, we've got to keep pushing and pushing. With software, I've always found with software is you keep pushing all the way through until you sell. Literally up to the second you're on the dotted line, you're pushing the whole time. So yes, I am motivated to make sure that we're better than anyone else all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at your life and you look a bit maybe further ahead, what would be your plans for the next, let's say, 5 years, both for Arthur, for your business, and for yourself, for your own life? What do you have in mind for the next 5 years for yourself?
I'd like to, as far as Arthur is concerned, if we get Arthur right, and who knows, lots of things can happen to make it right or make it wrong or whatever, and you're going to do your best. I think if we get Arthur right, it'll be a very valuable business. The valuations look mad for a business like Arthur if you get it right. So from a personal point of view, I would like to get Arthur to a point where I could hand it over to someone else. I'm very good at taking businesses to a certain size and then handing them over to someone else to run. So I would personally, and my wife is obviously a shareholder, Bev, we would probably run with it for a bit, get it where it needs to go, and then I'd hand the technology over to somebody else, and that. And then, of course, I'd like to spend a lot of time traveling, and probably not really do any work. I've got a classic sports car that I have, and taking that across Europe and going on all these stupid routes on US 1 and Route 66 and all those stupid things appeal to me. So I'd like to do stuff like that, and I'd like to do trekking across the Himalayas. And I think deep down, I could spend my whole life traveling without thinking twice about it. And that's it. I know the nice thing I've had in the health and fitness business very quickly was I do remember once I was traveling somewhere and I landed up going into it was one of the hotel chains. I think it was a Four Seasons or something, a Hyatt. I landed up going to Hyatt in the Middle East somewhere, went down to the health club to have a swim, and I saw my software on the terminal in reception in Arabic. And I have to tell you, that gave me a real thrill. I didn't even know they were customers.
Right.
And that was a nice endorsement that you've done something right. But I think Arthur would probably be the last one.
Okay. So how do you look at time, and how do you look at how you spend that time in your life? Do you have a way of, really consciously thinking about, okay, what am I spending my time on, and how do you do that? And what is your thinking around that?
It's interesting. Again, it's a very good question, Erik. Everyone calls me Peter Pan because I have these stupid ideas, but they're not stupid ideas because they actually materialize. And I'm very conscious of the living each day as though it shall last. So I don't think I have this fear of missing out. I haven't got the FOMO fear, but there are things on my bucket list I want to do. loads of them. If I look at my phone and I look at my reminders page on my iPhone, it's all full of places to go where I've spoken to people and they've mentioned this place or that place. And when you see those books that say 1,000 things you've got to see before you die, that actually is me. Probably to a point now where it's almost too obsessive. So, you also have got to enjoy your life, take stock of where you are and slow down. So there's that balance, isn't there, between being content and wanting to do things. And I don't fall particularly into the content camp very well. But I definitely fall into the grabbing both hands and getting on with it. So things like learning bridge and going on a cruise, I'll do that when I can't. So yeah, I'm very conscious of life on a daily basis. You can be passionate and relaxed at the same time. You can be passionate and content. They're not mutually exclusive. Arthur, when I look at Arthur, it's I wouldn't say it's a distraction. Arthur is a job that needs to be done. It needs full attention. It's got to be done properly. It's got to be done with passion and vigor. And so, of course, that's going to detract from doing everything I really want to do. But of course, what I am doing with Arthur is I can do it from different parts of the world, so I can have my cake and eat it to a point.
Right.
But ultimately, I'd like to spend, say, 6 months a year traveling, or 7 months a year traveling, and 5 months a year in the UK. And
is this allocation of time also depending on who to spend it with? Is that important for you?
Well, yes, it's all about balance. So the kids have left home. My youngest is that's the other thing. So what I've now got is 2 independent children. I remember my mum saying to me when we took them travelling, be careful, with what you get at the end, because I've now got 2 independent children who are completely independent. So when you want them to come home for dinner, most of the time they won't, because they're out doing things, and they do quite happily just tear off by themselves. And I mean, my youngest one went off for 3 or 4 months, just went off. The oldest one was pushing boundaries more and more and more. She'd go travelling, and then she'd go through the conventional customs route, and then she was going to places pushing, seeing how far she could go in dangerous zones. So, and then she almost got sort of pushed it too far and then came home. So majority of the time, obviously, with my wife. And of course, she's got her agenda as well. So her agenda is not so much travelling. My agenda is loads of travelling. So you've got to get the balance right. I love travelling with my baby one as well. She's a cosmic 60s thing, and you always get attention when you go away with her because she's a people person and she's interesting, and there's always a conversation that crops up somewhere. But I'm not sure if we'll go away as a family. That's quite interesting because everyone's very busy. But I wouldn't mind going away as a family again because it was fun.
Yeah. Well, I hope you do at some point in your life. I think it will be a very different experience then, I think, than when you did it when your children were smaller.
Yeah. Yeah, and also we're at different levels of fitness. So, trekking the Himalayas would work for, say, 2 of us, but not the other 2, and all that stuff. But, it would be good. It would be good. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time, as far as I'm concerned. Because I'm sitting here now talking to you from Chumpon in Thailand, and I've already got it sussed here. I know when I was doing all the work in the health and fitness sector, obviously I met people who owned resorts, and so I'm staying in this lovely resort in Chumpon, which is like a piece of undiscovered Thailand, where the beaches are just beautiful. I'm literally in this villa on the beach, and I've got my 3 monitors in front of me. So I've actually, and I don't really want to go to Bangkok to see the dev team unless it's like on a Wednesday and a Thursday, and I can come back again. So it is working now. It is working now, but I can't see me being a grandfather wearing slippers for a long time.
Yeah, you'll be too restless probably for that, won't you? Mm. So you have done things in your life that I think a lot of people, a lot of listeners, and also inspired me. I told you that, right? We spoke a year and a half ago, and you were the one that got me into traveling. So you've done a lot of things that a lot of other people don't or haven't done, and you've lived a life so far that is full of bucket list activities. I think taking your family for a long trip is something that many people would like to do. But if you would go back to, let's say, your 20-year-old self, and you would look at David at that age, and you would have a chance to tell him like 3 points of advice, what would you tell your 20-year-old self to do differently from what you have done?
Good question. Well, I suppose I could relate that to my daughter. I think I'd say have a lot more girlfriends before you settle down. I'd probably say experience life a lot more before you settle down. I've been very lucky. I met my wife when I was 17 or 18, and it's been really, really good. But I think I've seen lots of people who haven't. So I would have said that's probably the only advice I would give. And in fact, funny enough, that's what both my daughters do. In fact, all the kids do that today. But I think I just, I didn't go to university and I worked, and it paid off. And probably I'd say have more fun, just be more light about things. I think at that age you get very serious about work. But today you've got to be serious about work. There's not a lot of it around. So if you have a laugh, you're burning your youth away at a time when you probably need to build stuff. I think the only thing I would have said is, make sure I've got better tyres on the car for the snow, so you don't have so many accidents. And no, I don't think I would have done a lot differently, to be honest. I don't think I would have done a lot differently.
You don't seem to be somebody that has many regrets anyway, I think, do you?
No, that might be queuing them all up for now. I don't know. Right. I tell you one thing. I don't have I don't. There's this book, isn't there? Feel the fear and do it anyway. Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem doing something and then finding there's a mistake. I've made a big mistake. I'd rather do that than not have the courage to do it. Yeah. Even if you're about to blow it, I think I'd still rather live the way I want to live.
Sure. So would you advise other people that are now in their 20s, like your children, to take the opportunity of not having too many responsibilities and not too many obligations, probably in terms of mortgage payments or job requirements, to go and do more risky things and do more work or activities that light their heart?
I think you've got to do what you love if you want to succeed. So when I was 20 and I was building the business, did I love it? Well, I was naive, so I didn't know what I didn't know. The only thing I would say is very often people say I don't. They stay in their comfort zone, and I think staying in your comfort zone is not a good move. If something comes along and it scares you, but it could be a good move, you got to do it, and you'll make some cock ups every now and then. And I actually saw it with my oldest daughter. She's very similar to me in terms of she's in a software business. She's also in strategy. And she had to make a decision about whether she goes down the software development route on apps or she goes down the strategy route, the creative strategy route. They're completely different routes. One's high risk, one isn't. And she took the high risk one, and it was the right thing to do. But I think a lot of the kids today don't know what, I think you would get stuck into something and work on it for sure. A lot of them don't do that. They just say this isn't for me and give up. You mustn't give up, whatever happens. That I would say that you mustn't give up, whatever happens, and a lot of people do.
And I think you also have to learn to live through failures, I think, right? And I think for me personally, I wish I had made more mistakes and had taken more risks when I was younger, and had learned earlier on that, as my wife always calls it, it's not the end of the world, right? Losing money, losing your job, something going wrong, relationships breaking up. If you go through those,
good point.
Or more often, early on in your life, you learn that it's not ending your life.
Yeah, the best thing that happened to me, funnily enough, it's the best thing that happened to me, was 1988. I got married, and the business went bust. So I was 24, and we'd gone from the banks not being able to do enough, convertible BMWs and that sort of stuff, and I was 24, to literally resigning from our own business and having nothing, and having a personal guarantee on a lease. And then, of course, the lease values of just 1988 was a really terrible time. Everything went horribly wrong. 500 businesses a week were going bust, and we were one of those 500. So at 24, I was not private personally bankrupt, but the business was bankrupt. I ran out of money, basically. yeah, and it was the end of the world. But actually, I got some very good advice from a guy who's very, very big in the VC world now. And he was American. He's American. And he said, look, in America, this happens all the time. People go bust, but you learn from it. So I think going bankrupt to 24, the first business going bankrupt to 24, was probably a good thing. And I remember at the time thinking, I'm never going to have the fear of going bankrupt again because I've done it. We went to liquidation. It wasn't personal, it was a business. So that was a good thing. But you see, it happened because I pushed it too hard. I took too many risks and ran out of cash.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right. Having failures at an early age, you can probably deal with more resiliently than at a later age.
Something that just came to mind. You seem to value experiences, and in your case, travel, very highly. Do you also have a place for things? Do you like to buy things? Are things a big thing in your life? To own things or to?
No.
Why not?
That was very interesting. Again, I remember when we went traveling, there was an article in the paper about the Aston Martin. I think the DB7 had just come out, and I remember saying to myself, when I'm old enough, and when if I ever managed to become a millionaire and sell a business, I was going to work when I was 17 or 18. I was going to work for Aston Martin. I got an apprenticeship for Aston Martin, and I always wanted an Aston Martin. And then when I was 35 and I sold the business, or 36, wherever it was, I thought, hey, I can go out and buy one now. So I went to the Aston Martin showroom, and I was going to get one of the DBS V8s, one of the old ones, Roger Moore one. Yep. And I thought, Christ, what a waste of money that is. And I never bought it. I've got a few things that I love. Which I've got my Morgan, which is my classic sports car. And of course we've got property, but I look at the property as an asset. When we bought the house in Barbados, that was love. It was you just fell in love with it, and it was a completely stupid thing to do, but actually it wasn't. But actually, funny enough, no, material things, no. I remember thinking, I remember looking at the price of the Aston Martin, thinking I could go around the world for that. Thinking I'd rather go around the world, because the experiences, to me, are something that you will never forget, and assets come and go. Yeah, that's a very good question. No, I'm not really into the material stuff at all.
Yeah, it suits your profile, I think. I mean, it's clear that your life is built around experiences and about prioritizing the things you want to do with your life. And very often I find that then the material things are not that important.
No, but if you've got a few million quid in the bank, life is certainly easier. I won't lie about that. And at the moment we haven't got a few million quid in the bank because we put a load of it into Arthur. It's not. There's no question. It's nice to have money and have security. Of course it is. Anyone who says, I don't need material things at all, I think it's talking nonsense. You do, but it depends how much is enough. And where I come from, I think everyone's competing to be the richest man in the graveyard, the area of London I live. Yeah. It is who's going to be the richest man in the graveyard. And I'm certainly not that.
No.
But it'd be nice just to be able to say, something like, I always wanted to fly Concorde, but we never actually managed to do it because couldn't afford it at the time. But it must be nice just to be able to wake up one day and go, yeah, I'd like to do that, and just go off and do it.
I have one closing question, but before that, I would like to ask you, if people want to reach out to you, how would you prefer them to get in touch with you?
The best bet, probably just do it through the Arthur website, www.arthuronline, that's one word, .co.uk, ARTHURONLINE.co.uk. And I think if you go to any of the sales or info, I'd see the email anyway.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll link that up in the show notes so people can reach you, and also link the business that you're running. So my closing question to you is, David, what does the word freedom mean to you?
To me, it's the ability, I think emotionally and physically, not to be constrained and to be able to do whatever you want to do, and not be constrained emotionally through fear. And also, if you've got your health and your strength, you want to get up and do something, you've got to do it. I think most people can do whatever they want. But fear of change or fear of something going wrong or fear of being alone or whatever it is normally stop you doing it. And things happen in life. And I think normally if you, as they say, if you jump, the net will be there. The net will appear. So I think for me, freedom is being able to wake up in the morning and do pretty much what I'd like to be able to do. I probably wouldn't do it, but just to know that I could do it. But I think emotionally constraining is a big issue. I think you've got to be able to get over that. Yeah, for sure.
Great answer. I want to say a few closing words because I want to acknowledge you for the fact that when I was in a bit of a crossroads in my life last year and we got in touch, I think there was some sort of a reason why I got to meet you. And the conversations we had at some point, they were mainly about business, but at some point a spark flew across and you started telling me about your travels and what you had done. And that resulted in a conversation whereby you were really telling me, look, if there's anything you want to do in your life, go and do this and do it now. And you were pivotal in my decision to go and go away with my family for 6 months. So I want to really acknowledge you for that and thank you for that. I wouldn't have done it if you wouldn't have told me to. And for me, it was an amazing experience. I'll record my experience that I had in those 6 months in a separate episode sometime. But I really want to thank you for that and acknowledge you for that.
That's a pleasure. It takes courage to do it, but the benefits are, you just look at life very differently afterwards.
Absolutely.
You're empowered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, man. But talk to me in 10 years' time when they've grown up.
Will do. Thanks for the interview, David.
Thanks, man. It's been great, Erik. And good luck with everything. We'll speak soon, yeah?
Sure.
Take care, man.
Thank you for listening to the Job Insanity Podcast. Please visit jobinsanity.com for more information and show notes.